All right, in the previous session, I added two keyframes to the Animation Maker window. Now, there's a lot of stuff here. What do you start talking about first? I'm not going to be too worried about the proper sequence of topics. What I want to be able to do is to focus on those topics that are most relevant to this particular project, but we will make an effort to catch every single one of these features and functions and settings and options within this Animation Maker window. Now, you'll notice here that I have already added two keyframes from the last session. Now, a keyframe is basically you can kind of think of it as a marker. Let's clean up here. All right, think of it as a marker. Let's make let's get a black pencil here. Let's say right here, that's a keyframe. There we go. I got a straight line. This is good. We'll call that a keyframe. Now let's make this another keyframe. Now you can think of a keyframe as a position over time within your scene. All right, and I'm gonna make it so that our animation window stays open up here, and I'll just use my mouse to point up there. Let's have this keyframe number 1 be this one, the keyframe number 2 be that one. All right, so a keyframe is a point in time that is relevant to a position of the camera. Now, you know that from very, very early on in this tutorial series, I was telling you that you are the camera. So whatever you see here in your Mandelbulb 3D software tools, you are the camera. That's what you see, and there's a field of view. All right, and obviously there's a resolution, there's lighting, there's coloring, that sort of thing. So a keyframe is a particular position at a particular time within the sequence of your ultimately your animation. So it's a point in time at a particular position within your 3D environment. That position is X, it's Y, and it's Z. Okay. So a keyframe captures your position within the three-dimensional environment, simulated three-dimensional environment, of course. It captures a position at a point in time. That's a keyframe, a position at a point in time. Now, what your software is going to do for you, let's make that red. It's going to create a number of frames in between, all right, like that. Now that's called interpolation, because here on your keyframe, you're going to have a position X, a Y, and a Z, and that's going to be true with this one over here. This is X, Y, and Z. Let's say that you've moved forward, which is what I did. So that's a Z-axis. So you're going to have a Z, and then over here, since you move forward, you're going to have a different value of the Z. So what the Mandelbulb 3D software is doing, and this is true of many, many softwares that will interpolate between two keyframes, it will create a number of these frames in between two keyframes where the internal software algorithm has determined the moves between on the axes that have changed. In this particular case, the Z-axis has changed because I moved forward. I didn't move left and right, X and Y. I may have, but I didn't really intend to. So the software will interpolate a number of frames between two keyframes, and within the software itself, within the code, the memory, and all that sort of stuff, it'll actually move your camera. Move your camera according to the movement that you specified, all right, in relation to the first keyframe. Move the camera, make a frame or an image, send that image out, or store it in memory, all right, whatever the axis move there, at another frame, another frame, another frame, another frame. Now, in this case, you see here that I have 50. We'll talk about where that came from here in a minute. Now, so what that's going to do, that's going to tell the software to make 50 frames, or interpolate 50 frames in between those two keyframes. All right, so a keyframe is a position within your simulated 3D scene at a particular time, and the frames in between that are interpolated based upon the changes of the axes, whether it's X and or Y and or Z, from one keyframe to the next. And that's really the gist of it. So keyframing is a method that you use to enable the software to create frames in between. Sometimes those are referred to as subframes. I just call them frames and differentiate the terminology from the key frame. So the key frame is a point in time and in a particular position within your 3D scene. These are frames, interpolated frames, up to your next keyframe. And this process repeats over and over and over again for as many keyframes as you have. Ultimately, here's what's going to happen. Let's make this, put a blue pen up there. Did I go blue? It looks red to me. It looks like it's blue. Ultimately, what's going to happen is you're going to pull all of these frames into a video editing, all right, video editing software. Usually it's referred to as a non-linear editor, an NLE. DaVinci Resolve is one of those I happen to use. You're going to pull those frames, those interpolated frames, into your video editor, and that video editor is going to join, I guess, going to join all those frames together so that when you run your video across those interpolated frames, you get the phenomena of a visual movement. And it tracks, almost identically to, say, the old film, the movie film, the projector film, where really all that's happening there is mechanically they're sending light through a semi-transparent film that has the image on it. They send light through that projects, and then they move from the frame to the next one, and the light flicks on. Move to the next frame, the light flicks on, light flicks on, light flicks on, and ultimately, because the human vision can't keep up with all of that rapid film cell movement or cell changes, and the persistence of the human eye, as well as the brain, we don't see the individual flashes. We're not fast enough. Our visual system and our mental capabilities in terms of vision are not able to keep up with that. So we tend to see cells or images that blend with one another, giving us the impression of or the phenomena of movement. It's exactly the same way here. In order to get to the point where you have that movement, you need keyframes to tell the software how to interpolate or make the frames in between. So that really is the gist of the process behind here. What we need to do is invent the keyframes so that the software can invent the subframes or the interpolated frames in between our keyframes. All right, so let that sit. Get a cup of coffee or a tea or something and just kind of let that kind of sit. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about keyframing. Okay? I'll see you in the next session.